The Galactic Academy's Xenobiology lecture hall buzzed with the typical chaos of interstellar education. Students from 47 different species clustered in groups, their translators creating a cacophony of overlapping conversations. Near the back, Ilana sat alone, her human frame appearing deceptively fragile among the assembled aliens. She'd grown accustomed to the stares. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, and their Deathworld origin made them objects of morbid curiosity. Earth, with its crushing gravity, volatile weather, and abundance of apex predators, was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. Most species wouldn't survive a week on its surface without extensive protection. Ilana drummed her fingers on the desk, a nervous habit that made the Quellan student beside her scuttle away nervously. She didn't notice. Her attention was fixed on the doorway where James had just entered, his easy smile cutting through her morning anxiety like sunlight through fog. "Saved you a seat," she called out, patting the chair beside her. James navigated through the classroom with practiced ease, though he had to duck beneath a hovering Metherian, whose gaseous form occupied the upper portions of the room. He'd almost reached Ilana when a massive four-armed figure stepped deliberately into his path. Kreven was a Thurok, a species known for their size, strength, and, unfortunately, their aggressive territorial behavior. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with blue-gray chitinous plating covering his body, he was an imposing figure even among the diverse student body. He'd made it his personal mission to make the humans' lives miserable since they'd arrived 3 months ago. "Watch where you're going." "Deathworlder," Kreven growled, his translator rendering his words in flat, emotionless standard galactic. James raised his hands in a placating gesture. "Sorry, just trying to get to my seat." "Your seat?" Kreven's mandibles clicked in what Ilana had learned to recognize as amusement. "You mean the charity seats they gave your primitive species? You know, the only reason you're here is because the Galactic Council felt sorry for you, right? 200 years of space travel and you still haven't figured out faster-than-light communications." Several students turned to watch, their various sensory organs fixed on the confrontation. Ilana felt her jaw tighten. This was the 3rd time this week. "Just let him through, Kreven," she said, her voice level despite the anger building in her chest. The Thurok's compound eyes swiveled toward her. The female wants to speak." "Tell me, how does it feel knowing your entire species would be extinct if any real civilization wanted your little mudball?" James moved forward, trying to step around him. "We're going to be late for class." Craven's lower right arm shot out, shoving James hard. The human stumbled back but kept his footing. The classroom went silent. Even Professor Zillith, who had just entered, froze near the podium. "Stay down when you're pushed." "Monkey," Kreven hissed. That's when Ilana stood up. She'd been taught to control it, to suppress the adrenaline response that made humans such effective survivors on their nightmare world. Her instructors at the academy had warned her repeatedly about disproportionate force. But watching Kreven put his hands on James had flipped a switch in her brain. That 200,000 years of evolution had hardened into her DNA. "Apologize," she said quietly, walking toward them. Kreven turned fully toward her and several students gasped. Ilana stood barely 5.5 feet tall. The Thurok towered over her by more than 2 feet and outweighed her 3 to 1. "Or what, little human?" Kreven leaned down, bringing his face close to hers. "You'll cry? You'll report me to the—" He never finished the sentence. Ilana's right fist crashed into the side of Kreven's head with every ounce of Deathworld-forged muscle density behind it. The sound was like a hammer striking ceramic. The Thurok's mandibles cracked, and one of his compound eyes shattered in its socket. He reeled backward, all 4 arms flailing for balance he couldn't find. But Ilana wasn't done. Her left hand grabbed 2 of his arms, and using his own momentum against him, a technique learned from centuries of human martial arts, she twisted and threw. 8 feet and 400 pounds of alien bully crashed into a desk, which promptly collapsed under the impact. The entire sequence took less than 10 seconds. Kreven lay on the floor, purple blood leaking from his ruined face, making sounds that the translator couldn't parse. His breathing was labored, each inhale whistling through his damaged mandibles. The classroom erupted in chaos. Students scattered, some fleeing through the doors, others pressing themselves against the walls. Professor Zillith activated his emergency beacon with one of his tentacles while staring at Ilana, with what might have been horror or awe, possibly both. James stood frozen, his eyes wide. Ilana. She turned to him and he could see her pupils were dilated, her breathing elevated but controlled. She was still riding the adrenaline high, her body primed for threats that weren't coming. He shouldn't have touched you, she said simply. Medical drones arrived within minutes, followed by campus security. They loaded Krevin onto a hovering stretcher, while one of the medics, a Kellen with too many legs, scanned Ilana with obvious nervousness. No injuries to the human, it reported, its voice pitched high with disbelief. Security Captain Vorin, a Zentari with silver skin and 6 arms, approached Ilana carefully. Miss Santos, I need you to come with me. She nodded, the adrenaline finally beginning to fade, replaced by the cold reality of what she'd done. James moved to follow, but Vorin raised one hand. Just her for now. As they led her toward the door, Ilana heard the whispers starting, spreading through the crowd like wildfire. By the time she reached the hallway, her communicator was already buzzing with messages from students she'd never even met. The video footage would go viral across the galactic network within hours. Billions of beings would watch the moment a human, a species most considered weak and primitive, had destroyed a Thurok warrior in hand-to-hand combat. Xenobiologists would scramble to update their databases. Military recruiters would begin looking at Earth with new interest. But in that moment, walking down the corridor with security flanking her, Ilana only thought about one thing, whether James was okay. Behind her, in the lecture hall, Professor Zilith addressed the shocked students. Class, he said, his voice carrying a note of academic fascination. I believe we've just witnessed a practical demonstration of why one should never underestimate a Deathworlder's combat capabilities. For homework, I want a 5,000-word essay on evolutionary pressure and survival adaptations, due next week. Humanity had just made a very loud introduction to the galaxy, and the galaxy was taking notes.